Welcome to Voice of Wales. Today I have Eloise Schulz with me. Eloise is part of Students Against Tyranny, and today she's joining me to talk about women's rights. So thanks for joining me today, Eloise.
Thank you for having me.
Please tell our audience where you are from, where you are a student, and what made you become a voice for women.
So I'm a student. I joined Students Against Tyranny before I actually became a student. I joined as a young person, and then I became a student this year at Colchester Institute, and I'm studying art. And I think I sort of became a voice for young women. I kind of realized that people of my generation really have this intense fear of speaking out and a fear of sort of labels. And I've never been a person who's very susceptible to peer pressure. And so I realized that given that I have the ability to speak out and speak the truth without um, fear of retribution and without feeling that same anxiety that others do, I thought that since I have that ability, I should use it.
Well, I do see you actively working in the role of being an activist, speaking out, and I see people are also drawn to you when you talk and talk about the issues that women face today. So you are saying that there are issues with regards to trans women at this time, especially when it comes to them entering our bathrooms and our facilities. Tell me more about what you are experiencing.
Yes, so the protest that we're organising at the moment, we've got a series of protests going on in Norwich. And the reason for that is that there's a university, the University of East Anglia, and they have a leisure centre that's part of the university called the Sports Park. And young women have been going into the changing room and on two occasions have been confronted with a naked male. And they've reported that to the university, who won't even investigate. They won't even ask that question, why was that individual in there? On the basis that it might be discrimination. But I think it shows an absolute lack of respect for women's safety and women's own concerns for their safety. These are women who actually felt uncomfortable in that situation and decided to report it.
Are these male, like full males, or are they trans males?
Um, it's unclear because the university won't try to identify the person that it was. Um, so without even asking that question, we don't know. But at the end of the day, when you go into a female changing room, you are not consenting to being exposed to male genitalia, to naked male anatomy. That's just not something that you're sort of consenting to implicitly by entering that space. And so, regardless of how that person identifies, if that is, their current biological state, if that's how where they are in their journey, if they haven't had any operations, they have to know that that's going to make women uncomfortable. That's something that women in that space have not agreed to, and I think that they should respect that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I try and always put myself in other people's shoes. That's how we learn. And I know a trans woman myself. She's lovely. She had gone through years of scrutiny and abuse herself for doing what she's done. And if I were to put myself in her shoes of being a female, and her entering my space, I think I would be uncomfortable myself, um, to a degree. But not all women are comfortable in our own skin, for example. And I presume the same applies to men in men changing rooms. I don't know. And it's hard enough to become vulnerable around, other women in our spaces, let alone someone who claims to be one.
Yeah, definitely. I think especially young women feel very uncomfortable in their own skin. I think that that's why there is so much transgender identity within young people, within teenagers. Um, and, like you said, there are plenty of adults who decide that they need to transition and they go through, a lot of discrimination and a lot of abuse and hatred, which is obviously awful. And I think that's, if anything, that adds to the reasons why teenagers should be protected from that, and why they should be encouraged not to make that decision until they are fully adults. Because I've never met a teenager who feels comfortable with their body. Even ones who don't, identify as trans or anything like that. I mean, if you look at the rate of eating disorders within teenagers, again, it spikes because no one's comfortable with their body at that age. And I think that that's something that needs to be supported a lot more, rather than encouraging this transitioning that's going to cause them so many other issues throughout their lives.
Yeah. What pressure have you placed upon the university? Yeah.
Yes, so we've protested on the university grounds, well, within obviously the legal limit that we're allowed to go near to it, but so we have protested like at the site. We've contacted the university. We've organised a sort of formatted letter of complaint to contact the university with. We're raising the awareness of that within Norwich. So we've been to the high street a few times, and a lot of the public there are very interested in what we have to say, and they've come up to us and they've said, what can we do? How can we, help to make the university alter their decision? And we've talked about setting up a petition before, but at the moment what we're saying to people as they approach us is we're saying, here's the university website, here's the sports park website, please contact them in this format and say to them, you need to change your policy, or you need to clarify your position on this.
Absolutely. And when these incidents occurred, would there have been reports to police at the time?
Yes, yeah, the police, we've asked the police for information on this, but because it's an ongoing investigation for them, the police are investigating, which is a positive, but because it's an ongoing investigation for them, they haven't been able to share any details with us. But it was reported to the sports park originally, and then when sports park responded and said we refuse to investigate this, that's when it was brought to the police. It wasn't immediately escalated to that level.
And do you find that you're now being a voice, that others are coming to you reporting similar issues?
Yeah, I've had a lot of people who've reached out to me and said, oh, I'm really glad you're speaking about this, because I've experienced something similar, or my friend has experienced something similar. Or even, parents, dads have said, oh, I'm so worried to send my daughter into the women's toilets for, for concern for her safety. And I really just think that that's so shocking that that's something people even have to worry about.
Yeah, I can imagine as a parent, those are concerns, among other things.
Mm.
And how is this affecting your education?
So in my class that I've just joined, I'm doing an art course. Because most of the students are traditional route students, they're a little bit younger. There is one student in the class who has a clearly, changed name. And the first thing, this is an art course, and the first thing we did, day one, task one, we were told to write a manifesto. So there has already been a little bit of biting my tongue. I've had a tutor try and tell me that positive discrimination is a good thing, bearing in mind that that's illegal in the UK. So it's really been eye-opening, because I knew that students, were struggling against the indoctrination and like the woke ideology being shoved down their throats in schools, but I did not realize the extent of it until I started my course this year.
I know. I speak to students and teachers, mentors all the time, and even they express how much they have to bite their tongue in class. And with regards to the education, it's quite shocking, to a point where you feel like you just want to homeschool. But where do you get your education from? because there's so many mentors and teachers out there that's got so much to share. And yet you just have to go through this awkwardness of political agendas.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I've for the past few years been self-employed as a tutor for homeschooled children, and it was really interesting the difference between the ones who've been homeschooled their whole lives and the ones who'd been taken out of school to be homeschooled.
Yeah.
I noticed at first they have a real problem with asking questions or answering questions out of fear they might be wrong. And I would kind of joke around with them. I would say, "What am I going to do if you're wrong? What am I going to do? Am I going to flip this table over and start shouting? No, you can be wrong. It's absolutely fine." Um, and they can letting them know that they can disagree with me was a big thing as well. If I asked them about their ideas and they were different to my ideas, the ones who've been taken out of school weren't as comfortable with that to begin with. So it is a real struggle with whether to send your child into school, um, whether you think they'd be comfortable in that environment. But I do also know from experience that homeschooling has scheduling challenges, it has financial challenges, and it all just depends on whether you're able to, really.
Well, I can tell from your character and the way that you've expressed yourself, and you said that you're very outspoken. And a lot of people aren't outspoken. They're scared of what they're going to say, if they're going to step on toes. And even the older generation are scared to speak up because they're scared they're going to lose their livelihood, their jobs. And that is something you, I would say, is benefiting from, because you're political, you are in the media, and you're actually creating another division of a career for yourself by doing what you're doing, which is amazing. And ultimately it comes down to people like you that is the voice for the people, because not all of us can speak up. How can individuals contribute to these efforts and support meaningful change?
I mean, I heard a quote the other day that said, "Courage is contagious."
Mm.
As soon as one person starts speaking up, others will feel more comfortable to agree. And the more times and places that you just make one little comment, even if it's, the most respectful, even just a little question, just to challenge that idea that everyone else is so automatically accepting, it can really make it really ripples out into a big impact. I think things that people can do are sharing a lot of other people's content. If you don't feel comfortable speaking out yourself, just repost someone's video, say, "I agree with this," because it's one thing to say, "This is me, this is my identity, and this is what I think," and it's not as big of a deal to say, "Oh, I think that person has a point," or even just share it. "What do you think of this?" I would definitely recommend that if people aren't as comfortable speaking out from your own point of view, just recognizing any amount of credibility in other people's content, for sure.
Yeah. And are you finding that there's like-minded people like yourself within the courses and university that you're attending?
I haven't yet, but I have noticed that some people will take a massive amount of interest if, for example, the tutor that was trying to tell me that positive discrimination was a good idea. It was about whether museums should prioritize female artists. I was saying that they should have anonymous submissions and select the best work.
Mm.
And this tutor was saying, "Oh no, well, the system is rigged. Women don't have the same opportunities from the beginning, so their work isn't going to be at the same level as." And I just said, "But you're suggesting that they discriminate." She said, "Oh well, it's called positive discrimination. It's something we need." And I said, "I don't think any kind of discrimination can be positive." And the girl sitting across from me, she was going back and forth between me and the tutor, kind of you could see the cogs turning in her brain, and she was really kind of considering what I was saying. And I think even just having those quiet, respectful conversations in front of people, I am going to find more and more people agreeing with me.
Yeah. And what happened to you? As was there a specific event that triggered all of this, where you said, I need to take a stand?
Yes, because interestingly, when I was in school, I went to an all-girls school, and there was a lot of sort of culture of LGBT. Um, I'm not saying there's a link, but there was also quite a culture of mental illness and struggling mentally in that environment. And I was I was thinking that anyone who said that, oh, this student is a girl, not a boy, I was thinking anyone who said that was a horrible, evil person, and how could they say that? Because, that was my friend, that was someone I cared about, and it was upsetting them. Um, Having, I think, matured a little bit, and also when lockdown started, and I was saying to people, look, I don't think this is a very good idea. I don't think this is going to do good things. And I was having those same labels, you're a horrible person, you're very hateful. And I started to think, oh, it's a script. It's you get triggered by these buzzwords, and you just immediately think of that person as bad. Um, and I realized that that kind of thinking had actually been conditioned. And I started to sort of break it down and question, well, where did I get that idea from? Where did I start thinking about that? And I realized that they weren't my ideas. They were what I'd been told a good person and an intelligent person would say and think. And so I thought, well, I want to be a good person. I think I'm an intelligent person. And so that's what I kind of aligned myself with. And I realized that that was quite silly.
Can you tell me about any specific projects or initiatives you're currently working
Projects at the moment, Students Against Tyranny. We're working on our media presence, working on getting some content out as much as possible. We're lining that up over the next few weeks. I think that all the protests being organised by Students Against Tyranny, we've got some going on up towards Manchester and Liverpool, I believe. And obviously we've got our Norwich protests going on. I think it's really important that we highlight that this is what young people are saying, and this is for our future, because young people getting involved is so significant, not just because there's not very many of us, but because, without wanting to sound arrogant, it is all about us at this point. It is our lives that are being affected, and it is our generation that is going to need the most help right now.
Well, I do hope every student that watch this will share, because it does need more reach. And I completely understand, because as someone that's left school, 20 years ago, I do look down, not in a sense look down, but I do look at the younger generation, and I do see the struggles. I see how you are completely different than the generation I grew up in. And that confuses people. And it's hard enough not being able to speak up. And when you do, you're fearful of not being able to fit in schools. And it's so important to fit in. So you're under peer pressure, so much peer pressure to conform.
Yes, definitely. And I think I do have a little bit of an advantage that, as I said, I've never been someone who's, I've never even really understood peer pressure. I've never been someone who thought, well, if I don't do that, other people will think badly of me. It was always about how much I respected myself and how I thought of myself.
Yeah.
Um, if someone said an insult to me that wasn't true, if someone said to me, "Oh, you're really stupid," it would be the same as them saying to me, "Oh, you have blue hair," because I don't. It just wouldn't affect me.
Mhm.
Um, but I think in terms of, wanting to be pleasant to people and wanting people to feel comfortable around you, um, there is a lot of pressure in that sense. But again, I do think I have an advantage because being a more mature student at this college that I'm at, I'm not expecting to fit in the same way as everyone else does.
Yeah.
I'm not expecting to be considered quite as a peer by these other students. And so having accepted that going in, it makes me a little bit more free to kind of
Mm.
express myself and not worry about what will they think if I say this or that,
Mm.
you know?
Well, I'm hoping that people around the people you spend time around will be drawn to your energy and your intelligence, because people that are often awake and who ask the bigger questions are sometimes drawn to those individuals who have the wisdom to share. So it's early days. You've only just started your course, and I do hope that you will find more like-minded people being drawn to you.
Yeah, I hope so. And I think it's really important to network with like-minded people um online as well, because sometimes we don't always get that support in real life. And I think that's where being part of Students Against Tyranny comes in. It's a really strong support network. Anyone who's going through a problem at their school, if they've been um written up for saying something that the teachers don't like, there's immediate support. We've got, letters to send, and we've got legal advice coming in. And even just in a friendly way, in a social way, it's really nice to have like-minded young students that you can chat to
Yeah.
if you don't have any to chat to in person.
Mhm. And I'm curious to know, I know we've spoken about has the incidents been reported to police, how you've covered it, but would you say it would be a good idea for everyone to write to their MPs?
Yeah, I think writing to your MP can have a massive impact, especially at the moment because we're in a situation where we've got a certain party coming second to a lot of seats. And so those MPs that are in those threatened seats are going to feel the pressure more. They're going to be more inclined to act,
Mhm.
um, and more inclined to compromise in a way. If you're asking them for something that there are going to be MPs who won't want to support women on this issue, but knowing that reform would support them on this issue, they're going to compromise and they're going to offer some support because they don't want to lose their seat.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely a really good thing for people to do.
Mhm. I think that's important to put pressure on those who are able to change policy.
Absolutely. Yeah, it has to go all the way from your small battles with, one or two organizations, your day-to-day conversations. It has to go all the way from that up to the top because the small things do ripple out, but we need change now and we need to make as much impact as we can across the board. So it absolutely does need to go all the way to the top.
And tell me where they can find you. I will be putting your socials in the links below. But yeah,
Yes.
if there's any websites or sources, sorry.
Yes, so the Students Against Tyranny website, literally just type it into Google or SA Tyranny on Twitter. The link is in the bio.
Yeah.
I'm on Twitter as well. Eloise Schulz _. I'm on Instagram. I'm sure all of it will be in the video description. But yeah, anyone who follows, shares, retweets, likes, whatever it is, it does make a difference to us. We do notice everyone who follows us and starts getting involved because it really helps to amplify the points we're making. If you're not ready to make your own points, giving us a boost really does make a difference, and it helps us to reach a lot more people.
Mm. And everything that we've covered today, do you feel like there's something that I've missed or something that you would like to talk about that I didn't touch upon?
Um, I can't think of anything.
Good. Good. Okay. Well, I'm happy about that. It was a pleasure talking to you today, Eloise. It's important to talk about these I say human rights because I feel it is our right to be able to say no, I do not consent to this. But it is female rights overall. So thank you so much for joining me, and I hope to see your protests be the success you want them to be.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.